Venus retrograde is the sacred process of renewal and resurrection through the 40 days and the 40 nights that she becomes hidden to us, where we can no longer see her in the sky. This says to me that we all need times of retreat, of rest, and recovery, to recover that which needs to be seen and to be remembered, that can only happen through a retrogradation, a slowing down, a going backwards, a going inwards. And in that way, I think retrogradations by nature have more of a feminine quality to them because they're more about introspection, self-reflection, taking the time to be with things that maybe typically we would usually kind of zoom through or pass over, especially in our hyper-productive capitalistic culture. Retrogradation has gotten a pretty bad rap because it's antithetical to that which we have placed our highest value to produce and create and achieve to the point of no end, endless growth, endless consumption. Retrogradation by its nature is the opposite of that. It's growth in a different kind of way. It's a growth that can only happen when we take the time to be with what is here in front of us. We know that things like healing take time and that process isn't linear, but cyclical and comes in waves, just like grief. Well, the same is true when a planet goes retrograde. It moves into a state of being or consciousness that is no longer linear. And so I think one thing that Venus retrograde offers us is the opportunity to face, like the image of the Janus face, seeing things from a 360-degree perspective, taking the time to look at things from different points of view than we typically have or already have, with whatever Venusian themes are inevitably presenting themselves to all of us during her retrogradation. So those themes are going to be themes predominantly about relationship. Now, I'm a huge proponent of deepening and expanding our understanding of relationship to be at its essence the way that each and every single one of us as individuals is in a relationship with all else. So yes, of course, that is going to be romantic relationship and friendship, but it's also just going to be the way that we relate to everything and anything and everyone in our lives. But it goes beyond that, in that the themes or the content of what's coming up for each and every single one of us right now to face, to be with, to sit with, honestly, to witness, and then to metabolize. And I think that that is what Venus retrograde is about. It's about the way that things come up, are revealed, want to be witnessed, want attention, and then metabolize or process through. And then we take action, right? But it's so important we don't skip over those early steps and go right to action, because then it's reaction. So the themes that are coming up are going to be themes around your creativity, your creative process, who you are maybe as an artist, your creative self-expression. But it's also going to be around themes of how are your relationships going? We know that the quality of our relationships determines the quality of our lives. So Venus retrograde is a time period where our core intimate relationships come up, and there are things that require our attention, require us to deal with something there. It's also a time period where finances become much more in the foreground. It's a time period where we're reviewing, the money coming in and the money going out. We're looking at our financial health and well-being. We're looking at things like, what do we invest in? What do we invest our money in? What do we invest our time and energy in? During this retrogradation, my family has taken the time to very closely look at all those numbers and hold it as a question as, do we value this? Do we believe in where our money is going to? We are in a fortunate position to say we absolutely value how we make our money through psychotherapy and counseling and astrology readings and teaching astrology and psychology. So there is the Venusian, for us, right relation. But what about where we're putting our money? What about that outflow of money? And actually looking at and holding as a question, do I value this? Is this a worthy investment for me? It's been incredible, the transformation that's taken place for us financially, and therefore moving us towards greater financial health and well-being, because Venus is currency. It's the exchange of eros. And one way that gets expressed in our culture is through money, through our investments. And financial health is such an important part of our lives. And for many of us, that can be rooted in themes around self-worth. So Venus also has us kind of sitting with, are we valuing ourselves? Are we valuing ourselves in our work? Are we getting properly paid and compensated for the work that we're doing? Or do we need a raise? Or do we need to increase our fees? Or do we need not to do so much pro bono work or give so much away? Or are there ways in which perhaps maybe we could be showing up in greater levels of service? Maybe there's ways that we've been in scarcity consciousness, or in a more kind of contracted state where we're in a place of fear and we haven't been as giving because we haven't felt like we could do that. So it's just this place where we're looking to come into greater Venusian balance with the way that we move the currents of energy in and out of our life. And that includes reciprocity within all of your relations. That's looking at your friendships and saying, hey, who in my life do I really love? Who do I cherish? Who makes my heart sing? Who do I want to spend time with? And then doing that. Whereas at the same time going, does it feel good? Do I like spending time with this person? Do I enjoy the way that I feel after we've spent time together? And if the answer is no, then it's like the boundaries that get put in place there to protect your well-being. Venus has us in her retrogradation confront these issues. And in my experience, and I think for so many of us, becoming conscious is painful. So whenever there is a time period where there's upheaval or even revelation, we're seeing things that we didn't see before, we're having new perspective, new insights, new epiphanies about what's going on in our life, what's going on in our relationships, what's going on in our finances, or what's going on in how we value ourselves and our worth, which is directly connected to our sense of belonging. Do we feel worthy is a direct measurement into or looking at our levels of belonging in community. That we must believe that we're worthy in order to belong. It's an interesting predication that us human beings as social creatures have at this point in our evolution. And so in her retrogradation, in her renewal and revelation, in her resurrection, there's going to be pain. It's a painful process. There's aspects of it which are very uncomfortable and awkward and messy and usually confronting to the narrative or the story of what we thought was going on with our romantic partners, with our friends, with our self-worth, with our finances, with our creative process. And it's an opportunity through that slowing down, that witnessing, and then that metabolizing to get clear on what is right relation for you within all of those domains. And using the pain as a form of contraction to come in all the way to our core and to get clear on what our truth is, and then from there, move back out into greater states of harmony, which is what Venus is about, right? She is about harmony. She's about balance. She's about fairness and justice and reciprocity. And that can only happen in the balancing of the scales if we take an honest assessment of where we actually are at within all of these Venusian domains that I've been talking about. It's a sacred process of renewal because we remember in the Bible, there was those 40 days between Jesus's death and the resurrection, right? The ascension that he was going to have. That Jesus gave people who encountered him 40 days to say, listen, if you can believe in the good word of the gospel, let's just listen to that metaphorically, right? Remove religion from it, because this is not what this is about. And say, if you believe in the good news of the gospel, then you can begin to start saving relationships with God. And if we think of God as the divine that is omnipresent in all things, right? In you, in me, and all those around you, what it does is it allows us to have that renewal with God and to save those relationships, which I think is what Venus retrograde is about. It's about saving our relationships. And there's a way that we can save a relationship that includes us putting in the boundaries we need to maintain the compassion that we can have for self and other. And that's the definition of healthy relationship. It's not the level of intimacy you have with someone. It's not how close you are. It's not how far you are. We all are on a spectrum within our relationships of closeness and furtherness. All of us humans on this planet at this time, and I believe throughout all of history, past, present, and future. But what we can do is we can have boundaries that determine the distance between self and other that allows for the health of that relationship so that so that you are not in resentment of the other. Now, this is obviously easier thing said than done. And I can say that as a therapist who works with individuals and couples working on relationship issues. And in my own life, very focused on relationships and what does healthy relationship look like? How do we do that? And it turns out that only you can know what is right for you. Nobody else can know that. And that includes whatever boundaries or whatever distance you need between you and every other person in your life so that you can continue to take care of yourself and show up as the best version of yourself, whether that's as a parent, as a sibling, as a child, as a coworker. And that's a lot to maintain, right? That's a lot of different kind of stock or assessments to take in because we are in so many myriad relationships all at once. And so what the retrogradation does is it brings forward to focus the key ones that need to be looked at this given moment, at this time in your life, in order for that renewal and resurrection to take place into a greater state of health within your relationship to all things Venus. We have to see where we're out of alignment to get back into alignment. We have to see the ways we've fallen off of center to come back to center. The other part of it that I love about Venus is she's about reception. So it's about during this time, and again, this relates to kind of a more feminine or yin mode of consciousness, which is it's a time period of receiving. It's a time period of, practicing receiving love, receiving support, receiving help. It's a time period of, receiving gifts. Some of us aren't very good at receiving gifts. Some of us aren't that great at asking for help. There can be shame or uncomfortability around it. And what I'm saying is that during this time, it's like, is there support around you that's trying to come in that perhaps you're blocking or perhaps your heart is blocking and saying no to out of conditioning or out of fear? So very much our creative process is directly linked to the ability upon which we're able to be receptive. And I think that's part of the wisdom of Venus. It's also about the fact that we need each other as human beings. Because Venus's domain is relationship, she's saying to us, listen, in order to come into harmony, in order to come into balance, we have to get clear and honor the fact that we need each other for support and to come back to center and to remember who we are. That part of coming back into balance and harmony with our nature and with one another's nature is actually through tending to our relationships. And, you know, perhaps seeing it a little bit differently than whether we're independent or codependent. That seems to be the two options these days, or sometimes a little bit of maybe interdependent. And I actually much more resonate with the spectrum of there's different levels of dependency. So we all need each other. I need my daughter needs me. I need my friends need me. I need my husband needs me. We need each other. And when we can be real about that, and when we can honor that, when we can celebrate that, when we can name that, when we can witness that, when we can name that, when we can talk about that, I think that that becomes a really alive, juicy part of life where it's like, hey, I love you. I love having you in my life. This is what I love about you. This is how I love spending our time. This is what brings me joy. This is what brings me happiness. And when I'm with you, these are the things I want to do because I love you. And it's like, yeah, we need to say that to each other. And often our nervous systems are actually hardwired in that if we feel love, if we feel not only seen and heard, but also desired, wanted, which is another part of Venus, is our desire and our want, incredible things happen from there. And it's when we don't feel that we start to move into states of isolation, self-doubt, anxiety, depression, worry. And those are just indications of, oh, hey, needing to come back into relationship. I'm needing to find ways to be in community, to be in friendship, to be in partnership, to be in whatever it is that is speaking to you, to go to the canvas and paint, to go to the guitar and play, to take a dance class, to go ballroom dancing finally, to finally learn how to play the djembe, or to get back into a band, or to continue to do whatever makes your heart sing, and then take the time to do that. It doesn't take much, I think, to satisfy Venus. I think she is a being, or they are a being that doesn't actually require that much from us. I find that we put in just, let's say, 1 coin, we get back 10. I think that's the nature of that energy, and I absolutely delight in that. So my concluding thoughts here on Venus retrograde is that when we're willing to be present with that which is coming up around all Venus themes, and perhaps be in some of the uncomfortability, awkwardness, and pain that's there, that there's actually a profound moving through and restoration of balance, harmony, joy, connection, and belonging that we get. And I absolutely delight in that. I'm not saying at all that it is easy or always pleasurable, but what I am finding is this like deep relaxation that's happening in my being by going in and actually looking at, okay, how am I with my creative process? How am I with my finances and my investments? How am I doing it romantically in my relationship? How am I doing sexually? How am I doing in friendship? How am I doing with valuing myself and my self-worth? These are all universal human themes. And to just for all of us to really recognize that this is a shared experience. When a planet in the sky goes retrograde, on a collective level, the entire human species and every individual in it is going through it. I think it's an incredible part of being on this planet and astrology working, that these archetypes in these kind of transpersonal domain move through us as a species in this given moment of time. And then we each have our individual way of being with it and participating with it and moving it through. So I just send so much love and blessings for you in the final days of this Venus retrograde, a time period of renewal and resurrection. And just, yeah, all the love and support for whatever it is that you are going through right now. We are celebrating the 10th anniversary of Trust Psyche. I am so stoked. And I'm also offering a masterclass that's coming up in November. It's 4 long days, which is going to be amazing. It's on how to read a birth chart. This class is a masterclass because it's for folks who are already read charts, who use astrology in their practice in some way, whether that's as a professional astrologer, a therapist, a coach, in the healing arts, whatever it is that you do, or people who are on the precipice of wanting to read, who have that inclination to read, whether that's just personally or professionally. And we are going to go through 3 different live demonstrations of 3 different ways to read the chart. One's a step-by-step, more systematic process. Another is more like astrological counseling. It's more therapeutic. And then the third is divinatory or oracular. This class, it comes out of what I've been doing for the last 15 years as a professional astrologer and psychotherapist. And I would be over the moon for you to come and join. So you can go to trustpsyche.com. You can find more information. You can register there. And the early bird ends September 16th-ish, I think. So come join the fun. And I'd love for you to live astrology with us. Like this channel, subscribe to this channel, like this video, leave a comment. And thank you for being here with me. Okay, I will see you all next time.